Who fled Egypt during the Exodus? Hey, this is not Sunday school, so stick around. That is a good connection right there. Ah, Evil Fred. What sinister things are you up to today?
Ah, good, you're here. Well, actually, I've been working on a new theory, and I thought I might need a new perspective. And what a better view than someone, well, I simply don't respect.
Well, I'm flattered, I think. But you of all people following a red thread, this is going to be a good one.
If I could kill you over again here, Kevin, I would, all right? Now listen, I've been thinking a lot about the Bible, particularly the Old Testament.
The Lord Jehovah has given unto you these 10 commandments.
Oh, some threads are better left tangled. We should never cover religion or politics. Just ask Kanye West.
Grow some facial hair, will you? Anyway, so I've been following a thread that led me to some interesting ideas.
Okay.
Okay, you see, the Jewish Exodus might not have happened the way we think it did.
Fine, you've piqued my interest. Tell me what you're getting at.
Okay, it's a long thread though, so it's gonna take some time, so just bear with me with this one.
Longer than 40 years? Because the Jews roamed the desert for 40 years after the Exodus.
Yeah, I got it, Kevin. Are you considered funny there or something?
Just get to your theory.
Okay, where to start with this one?
Oy vey.
You serious?
Well, we'll start with the earliest evidence of the Jewish people. Kevin, what can you tell me about the origins of the Jewish people?
Well, in the Bible, it is said that Abraham, the father of the Jews, was from southern Mesopotamia and later settled in the region that today is Israel, around 4,000 years ago.
Yes, that's what the Bible says. However, archaeologists see no evidence of the Jewish faith older than 3,000 years. This means that there is a 1,000-year discrepancy between biblical events and the available archaeological evidence.
Okay, so tell me, what is the oldest evidence of the Jewish people?
Well, surprisingly, the oldest evidence is not in Israel, but in Egypt, with the Berneptah Stele. It's a 3,000-year-old stone monument erected by the Egyptian pharaoh Merneptah to celebrate his military victories. It mentions a group called Israel among the enemies he defeated in Canaan, which is present-day Israel.
Okay, I've heard of that monument. I also know the oldest known evidence of the Bible is about 2,600 years old via the discovery of the Katith Hinnom amulets. These amulets serve as a chronological bridge between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the first book of the Hebrew Bible. Speaking of the Bible, scholars believe that the Bible as we know today was fully constructed with all the stories during the Jewish exile in Babylon in 538 BCE. It has been suggested that during this time in Babylon, the Jews had to find a new way to keep themselves together, and writing the Bible was a way of doing it. So thank you, Babylon.
Babylon? Kevin, this has nothing to do with the dawning of the third age of mankind. However, I will say Babylon 5 was a fantastic show, but I'm talking about something else here, so stop distracting me. Are you even paying attention?
What? I'm not talking about the show. God, I hate you.
Shh. Don't you mean Yahweh? Anyways, even you, a weak-minded, pathetic fool, can see where I'm starting to go with this.
No, you lost me at grow some facial hair.
My point, Kevin, if you could follow along, is there are no hard evidence of Jews existing prior to 3,000 years ago. Archaeologists and biblical scholars have been looking for proof for the Bible stories, such as Noah's Ark and the Exodus, but have come up short-handed. However, I stumbled upon a thread that suggests while the Exodus did happen, it may not have happened in the way we all believe.
This might be an excellent place to stop, Evil Fred.
Kevin, just because you can't have opinions in your reality, doesn't mean we can't hear.
Well, we can have opinions here. I mean, just as long as they're not problematic.
Facial hair, Kevin, facial hair. Wisdom is never the problem. It's the sinister things people do with it that can be the problem. But I love sinister things, so it's cool. Anyways, tell me, what do you know about the Exodus?
Well, I know Jews lived in Egypt for generations as enslaved people. It is suggested that the Pharaoh Ramses II refused to let Moses and his people leave, despite the plagues of God. And eventually Moses escaped by parting the Red Sea. And then the Jewish people spent the next 40 years in the desert looking for their promised land.
Yeah, that's a commonly held belief. But you know what? There's no evidence that this ever actually happened. And Ramses, who was known for writing everything down, never talked about the Jews.
Yeah, but Ramses was known for being a sore loser. He only wrote about his victories.
Fair enough. But do you remember the Merneptah Stele celebrating Pharaoh Merneptah's victories?
Yeah.
Where he mentioned the Jews for the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who his father was?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ramses II.
Damn right. And that's important to remember, because during the 40 years the Jews were lost in the wilderness after the Exodus, the Bible speaks of many battles the Jews had to fight to reclaim their promised land. However, the Egyptians are not mentioned during the struggle. So that would suggest that there is no way the Exodus happened during the time of Ramses and his son Merneptah. But there's a pharaoh, or better yet, his followers, who did fit into this puzzle, and they may have been the people described in the Exodus story.
This is great, Fred, but it's starting to sound like a pyramid scheme. So who was it?
Amenhotep IV, better known as Akhenaten.
The heretic king. Now there's a complicated figure in history. When he took the throne with his wife Nefertiti, they drastically changed the Egyptian society. Not only did he move the capital, he abolished the old religion and declared there was only one god, the Aten.
Quick question, how do you know so much about Egypt?
Well, my friend and I went to Egypt working on a thread about Libyan desert glass and the ancient biblical cities of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Ooh, Sodom and Gomorrah, I heard they had a lot of fun in those towns.
Yeah, we didn't have that kind of fun, but we did ride a camel. Becoming a Patreon will give you access to all that content and much more.
Ooh, I see what you did there. Good plug.
Thank you. So go on with this whole Akhenaten, and what does this have to do with the Exodus?
Ah, yes. So as you said, he declared there is only one God. Now, as you can imagine, the outrage this would have caused the priests and other nobles who followed the old religion.
So you're saying Akhenaten was Moses?
No, but I am suggesting his followers would later flee and find sanctuary amongst the tribes in Canaan.
Now, I'm lost.
All right, so Akhenaten ruled for 17 years. During this time, he maintained his new religion and stripped the power away from the priest, consolidating it all under one god. After his death, it is believed his brother and perhaps even his wife ruled Egypt under this new religion. So for 21 years, the Egyptian nation's faith was monotheism.
Wait, did you say 21 years? That's a long time considering the average Egyptian lived to be only 30. This would mean for more than a generation, they lived with the knowledge of Aten as their only true god.
Yes, but this new faith came crashing down after the death of Akhenaten. It is even suggested that his brother, who inherited the throne after him, was murdered. And Akhenaten's young son, Tutankhamun, at the age of 9, became the new king, with I acting as the new regent. The old ways were brought back, and Akhenaten's religion was demolished.
Ancient Egyptians worshipped hundreds of different gods, but Akhenaten decided to focus specifically on the worship of the sun god itself. This was such a radical change, though, that after Akhenaten died, all of his sort of revolutionary ideas were pushed aside. This really violent act of destruction was an attempt to completely erase from history one of Egypt's most controversial pharaohs, Akhenaten.
It seemed this power struggle did not just stop with Akhenaten's death. I know there was another power struggle. This time period in Egypt is very interesting.
It is, but that's not the subject of this thread. The point is that if that much chaos was happening after the death of Akhenaten among the nobles and priests, what would this mean to the devout followers of the new monotheistic religion? I would like to point out that Moses is said to be a prince of Egypt who led his people away from persecution.
So let me get this straight. You think that Akhenaten's followers, particularly a noble named Moses, are the ones who fled Egypt? I guess this wouldn't be the first time a disenfranchised religious group would flee their homeland looking for a new place to practice their faith. Such as the Pilgrims fleeing England, but I still think you are stretching this thread.
Perhaps, but I'm not the only one. Sigmund Freud followed the same thread, and this is what he had to say about Akhenaten.
He who added the something new that turned into monotheism, the doctrine of a universal God, the quality of exclusiveness.
Like me, he thought Moses was an Atenist priest.
Yeah, but Ziggy probably also thought Moses wanted to hook up with his mother.
Freud. That's probably true. But it brings us to a good point, the subject of mothers. You know, there's some similarities in the Egyptian and Jewish traditions in that facet. In Egypt, for example, inheritance is only passed through the woman's side. In order to be Pharaoh, only the queen could pass the royal power. The same goes for the Jewish people. You're only Jewish if your mother is. Also, in Egypt, names have power. For instance, parents would give their kids two names, one for everyday use and one for the gods. This is similar to the Jewish tradition, who also gives two names, one Hebrew and one scholar.
Okay, Evil Fred, let's look at your thread one more time. You are suggesting around 3,500 years ago, the followers of Akhenaten fled persecution and fled to Canaan. Thus, the Jewish faith started with Moses and not Abraham? This is blasphemy.
Sinister. I'm not saying that they became the Israelites, but perhaps Abraham had already established the Jewish people in Canaan and was later joined by the refugees of Akhenaten, forming a new culture, one that we would today identify as the Jewish people.
I can see that being possible, but the Bible is pretty clear on the origin of the Jewish faith.
You said it yourself, that the Old Testament was not inscribed until around 538 BCE. That means that there were around 700 years for the story we know as the Exodus to have been corrupted by interpretation.
Look who's calling the kettle black.
Kevin, is that a dig at the hue of my facial hair?
No, but fine, I will concede. What you said makes sense if you don't consider the Bible or the Jewish people's oral history.
Oral history. Sinister.
Well, good job, Evil Fred. I am confident this is going to be a very controversial episode.
You're so afraid, Kevin. One of the most renowned protagonists in my reality had this to say about being successful in business. I really think you should listen because you're just too scared.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Family, religion, friendship. These are the three demons you must slay if you wish to succeed in business.
See what I'm saying, Kevin? Brilliant.
Sure, words to live by. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have.
We'd like to thank our patrons, Super Dave, Robic, Lance, Razorback. Without your generous donations, this show would not be possible. I'm Evil Fred.
And I'm Good Kevin, reminding you to follow the red thread and see where it takes you, even if it gets you banned off YouTube.
You're such a weak-minded, pathetic fool. Facial hair, Kevin, facial hair!
Shut up.